Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. We're going to start off this podcast with a little song, y'all. There's no business like show business like no business I know. Y'all may have heard Annie in the background barking because she loves a good show tune too. She's a showbiz doggy. So we're talking about show business today. The episode is called Show BIGness because we're talking about my bigness and the business of show. Show business, y'all. It is a business where they can fat shame you with no repercussions, which I kind of appreciate in a way because at least you know where you stand. Oh, there's many other businesses out there who don't hire a person for their size, among other things, race, sexual orientation, general appearance. But in the acting world, I actually don't mind it. I've always kind of known where I stood, and where I've stood has changed places over time based on my age and my weight. But I prefer the aggressiveness to passive aggressiveness any day. So case in point, day jobs for actors often involve being either a server or being a temp. So I went down the temp route. One day, in the middle of July, in the summer heat in the early 2000s, I had a job interview to be a temp to hire receptionist for a nonprofit. I had on white Nautica chinos and a blue blouse and a black kind of poplin short sleeve blazer thing. And it was the best of my best of business casual summer edition. Looking back, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but at the time, I went into the interview with my 220-pound, at the time, self, and I stood outside the building and switched from my Birkenstocks to my low black heels that I had just for temp jobs. I was sweaty as hell, but I was trying my hardest, and I was totally qualified for the job, mind y'all. And the interview, it went well enough, but I could tell the lady interviewing me just wasn't feeling me. Wasn't having it. So a few days later, I get a call from the temp agency, and she's like, "You're not hired, Brooke. They didn't hire you." And she proceeds to tell me why I wasn't hired. And honestly, I didn't even ask. That's why I was doing mindless temp work, so that I could just put all my effort and my mind into my art, not my day job. So the temp agency lady says, "Well, the lady you interviewed with said you weren't dressed appropriately and your appearance was disheveled." She didn't mention that on my resume, I had had a decade of office experience and could handle multi-line phones and 98 words per minute in my sleep. And instead of me saying to the temp agency, "Lady, I'm a poor, overweight actor, and it's the middle of July in New York City. I'm doing my best," I cried. I was in the middle of a Starbucks in Columbus Circle, and I started bawling like an idiot about a temp job. And I tell this tale, y'all, because in the acting world, you know the role you're auditioning for in advance. And you hardly ever hear back when you do not book the job. And that's actually kind of easier. I prefer it that way. It's easier for me to assume that I would just suck than for someone else to tell me exactly why I suck. Oh, I don't really mean that, y'all. When actors don't get a role, it isn't because we suck. It's because we remind the director of their ex-wife. We look too similar to the lead, or it just wasn't meant to be, right? This passive-aggressive office culture BS is also why I stopped being a temp and dove straight into show business, show bigness, even harder to make it my day job. I'd rather be chewed up and swallowed by Monstro the whale from Pinocchio, y'all remember him, than lightly bitten by mosquitoes for the rest of my life. I'd rather know what I'm getting into in advance, and with the acting world, usually you do, because they can say, seeking a temp to perm receptionist, must look like she stepped out of a 1999 Talbot's magazine, straight hair up in a French twist, ideally a size 6 to be slender enough, but not too slender, so she doesn't border the line of Calvin Klein 1990s uber skinny heroin chic. She must never sweat, literally or figuratively. In show business, you can do that. In the regular job industry, you can think that, but you can't really do that unless you want a lawsuit. But dealing with my bigness in show business wasn't always so easy. So backtrack to college. In college, I was at my heaviest at 250 pounds, but I still did this crazy physical activity of this Suzuki training stomping that we had to do and African dance with the best of them. And in fact, African dance was how I found my freedom. I talk about this in another podcast episode, y'all. Episode 6, Hold Me Closer, Fatty Dancer. If you want to scan through the episodes and listen to that one, it's one of my personal favorites. But African dance was the first time I was happy and free in my larger body, like ever. And it was the first time my fatness was called out by a college professor, not the African dance professor who goes, Brooke, I saw you in African dance class. You're a bigger girl. You need to use it. You need to own it. And I didn't want to do any of that because I don't like being told what to do. And I didn't want to own my bigness because I had been chastised about my bigness for so long from doctors, from bullies, from just people in general. And also, this was the first time that someone just expected me to hear this news and just snap my fingers, run with it, keep it moving on like business per usual, because that's show business, even in college. This did not destroy my love of African dance, but it did kind of destroy my sense of self because I thought, maybe if I keep doing African dance now, maybe if I do something, I will lose weight and I won't have to own my bigness ever because I won't have to always be big. It's bad being big because people are afraid of my bigness. I've got a big personality and a big body, and it makes people uncomfortable. And I can't be free if I'm making other people uncomfortable. Rolling my eyes, y'all. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. That's what I should have told my 19-year-old self. Hell, that's what I should be telling my 41-year-old self. I just said my age. Whoops. You're not supposed to do that in show business. I'm 25. That's BS. Okay, so losing weight and self-acceptance, as we know, didn't always come easy for me. So upon college graduation, I had an agent who was very interested in working with me. I was so surprised. All of the things she sent me on had extremely large or overweight attached to the role description. Instead of auditioning happily and laughing all the way to the bank, I took it personally. So when said agent wanted me to audition for Cirque du Soleil, before even telling me what the role was, I already knew. I told her I wasn't going to do it. I said, I don't want to be a circus freak. And I never worked with said agent again. Yo, sorry microphone. I just hit my microphone. Looking back, I probably should have just done it because I didn't realize how artistique Cirque du Soleil was. Maybe, just maybe, they would have done justice to overweight peoples. Maybe. Maybe not. Another fart noise for this episode. We're farting a lot with my mouth and maybe with my body, and I'm not telling y'all. So later on, a few years after agent number 1 right out of college, I'm still in the business, of course. And after losing about 20 or 30 pounds and feeling a little bit better about myself, I go in to meet with the casting director at one of these meet and greets. I did a monologue and I felt like, oh, I did a great job. She smiles and she shakes my hand, which is rare because usually we're told you can never shake a casting director's hand, right? But she shook my hand. I was like, oh, she must really have liked my monologue. I turned around and I waved back, and I noticed as I was leaving that on the top of my resume, which detailed all my hard work, years of serious theater preparation and Suzuki and African dance training, the casting director had written in big, all caps, 3 letters, B-I-G, big, in red, circled. So instead of focusing on how the interview went well, the audition went well, I should say, I focus on the fact that after losing some weight, I am still viewed as just the big girl. Later on, I told a friend of mine about it, and the friend put a different perspective to it. She says, maybe she just thought your acting was big. Either way, it's not a compliment or a good thing in my mind. So after that, I kept auditioning for a variety of roles, from white trash moms to overweight woman eating pasta to rotund brothel madam, and all the acting roles in between that always had to qualify themselves as, we are the roles for the fat ladies. We are the roles for the fat ladies. We are the roles for the fat ladies. Meter made with camel toe. Yep, that was another fart noise. So I just wanted to audition for simple things like a lawyer or a nurse or a person without having to have a fat in front of it. Hey, fat people can be lawyers or nurses or anyone we want to be too, right? Not according to show business. It was discouraging because I was slowly losing weight, but the industry wasn't seeing that. The industry didn't care. I auditioned for Neil LaBute's revival of Fat Pig on Broadway, and I didn't get it. And in my sick mind, I told myself, maybe it's because you're losing too much weight, girl. And a friend of mine, maybe the same friend who I just had the conversation with about the casting director, she told me I probably didn't get the role because I didn't have enough credits under my belt. Perspective. Friendship. Either way, both are still kind of crappy. So then one day, the most recent experience that I'm going to discuss, about 7 years ago or so, I see a posting on a site that we as in we little actors, not me, I'm big. Remember, it's circled in red on a resume on someone's desk. Probably in the shredder by now. So I see a role. They're looking for a quote-unquote plus-size lady, which is a term that they started using about a decade ago or so to sound more politically correct than fat or large or obese. And the film shot in Texas or somewhere down south. And I go, yeehaw, I'm technically plus size. And this description isn't as offensive as submitting for a fat woman or unkempt white trash mom. Let's go for it. So then I get the script, the audition script. And the script describes the lady I'm auditioning for as a, I quote, disgustingly gross, large woman laying on a couch. And I just couldn't take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. So I wrote the casting director telling them that I would have to decline. And y'all, if you're not in the biz, you know that this is kind of like, you don't do this. You don't do what I just did. That takes some cojones. So at this point, I had never ever turned down an audition or a job interview or a job opportunity. I'd never written a casting director saying, I'm not going to do this. So what I said to this casting director, I said something along the lines of, this is disgraceful, and I'm not going to subjugate my mental health to this, and I don't think any other of the actresses who submitted should do so either. Sadly, I have to decline because I've come too far in my journey as a working actor and as a person to be called disgustingly gross simply because I'm not a size 2. I thought I'd be blacklisted and that the casting director would hate me. But 5 minutes later, they write back. And she says she completely understood and that she would talk to the director. So the director changed the script up a little bit to describe the lady on the couch as a rotund woman, which I thought was acceptable enough to audition for now. And also, they were working with me, so I didn't want to seem unagreeable. So I get an email about a week later from the casting director saying they loved my audition, but they decided to go with someone local so they could save on travel expenses. I wonder if that's true, if they decided to go with someone who didn't speak up as much as I did. Probably. Who knows? But honestly, for the first time in the industry, for the first time in show business, I felt somewhat understood. But more than that, I felt proud of myself for standing up for my body, my mind, my spirit, and my soul. And now, y'all, after nearly 2 decades of pounding the pavement in my Birkenstocks in this show business, and after losing 100 pounds of weight since that very first African dance class, I'm seeing the trend. I am now auditioning for co-star roles like doctor, lawyer, nurse, just regular utility people roles that don't specify you gotta be fat. Oh, I still sometimes submit for an audition for larger bodied lady roles because let's face it, compared to most of Hollywood, I am at a size 10, height 5'8", and about 150 pounds. I'm still considered like Godzilla. But now it's not my calling card. But you know what? Even if it was, I should have been damn proud of it. I let a business chew me up and spit me out, but I still love the business no matter what. I have worked so hard, y'all, for this show business to not define my relationship with my body. I have tried so hard for show business and sometimes lack of business to not define my relationship with my self-worth. But I have never, ever, ever debated leaving this business. I'm never going to interview for someone who judges my typing skills based on how well I wear business casual to an interview. That called for another fart noise. Thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope in the specificity of my own journey, it helps you find a connection with your own. My dear best friend, Brian, who directed me in my solo show, Phat Girl Costumes, which inspired this podcast. Listen to that accent. He said, in your specificity, there is a universality. Brian said it much more eloquently than I do, but that's what I'm going for. I'm sharing my specific journey to hopefully make everybody else feel a little less alone in theirs and to hopefully inspire peeps. So, as always, thank y'all so much for listening. And go to the Instagram, go to YouTube. I love it when people leave comments. Tell me about some of your most horrific job interviews or some of your most wonderful jobs, show business or otherwise. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Phat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Phat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.